Well, hi everybody, Ken Johnson here with you, and we've been tracking the Siberian, the Arctic cold outbreak all week long, and now that we're to the weekend, we're about to see it begin to impact the area here across a good part of the country, and it's going to last into next week. So let's start here. This is as of Friday evening. We're looking across Texas and Oklahoma here. Mild air. Some places in Texas today got well into the 70s. It felt great outside here. Windy, breezy conditions. There is a front kind of located just moving through Oklahoma City as an early Friday evening back to just south of Amarillo. But at least initially, this front's just going to bring a change in the wind direction. It's not really going to bring a big drop in temperatures. There's your leading edge of the really cold stuff up here from about Denver and northward, and then you get up into the northern plain states, Canada. That's where it's really cold. Now, some of this is going to drop south starting on Saturday, but you really begin to see it spill into the region here as we get into Saturday night, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. It looks like weather is going to be pretty cold across the region here. Look at some of those numbers. There, that purple that's where the real cold stuff is, and that's set to drop down into parts of the country by early next week as well, as our jet stream is now taking that dip down into the U.S. So if we take a look and track the frontal systems, I'm kind of focused in on Texas and Oklahoma, the central southern plains states. This is the surge of the first surge of really cold air getting in here Saturday night into Sunday. And as it moves through Saturday evening, this front could bring with it a little band of some light snow or snow flurries. I don't think it'll be anything that will amount to much. Not expecting problems at this time. And then there's another surge that comes in Sunday night, Monday, and into Tuesday. But there might be at least some minor changes here. And even though it does look really cold, maybe not quite as cold as what we've been talking about this week. I think now that temperatures are starting to look like they might even try to rise above freezing during the day. I believe the reason why is a lot of this stuff is coming in kind of waves. Instead of all coming down at one time, it's coming in waves, and it's allowing the air to modify some. Matter of fact, by the time we get to Wednesday, we could see the weather pattern flip and the coldest stuff quickly shift east, and we might see some milder weather out west try to move in. But if you take a look, and again, this is tomorrow evening here. This is starting here on Friday. We put this into motion. And there's that little band of snow I was talking about trying to drop on through tomorrow evening. So don't be surprised if there's some flakes flying around. I don't think it'll be much here in Texoma, but again, some light snow or snow flurries possible Saturday evening. So we look at the overall weather pattern, and this is the upper levels, and I've been talking about that this type of scenario this week. When you're forecasting weather, you really want to look from the top down. So this is about 30,000 feet in the atmosphere, and when you're at this level, one of the things that you look for is what's called vorticity or spin in the atmosphere here, and it's that spin that help create storm systems, and the storm systems that help create precipitation areas and also areas of cold air versus warm air. This big area you see here stretched out, that's your polar vortex. Center of it's up here in central Canada, but it is stretched out into the U.S., and that's bringing that cold air to the south. This will be early on Saturday morning. And it continues as we head into early next week. You can see it sit there spin and how it's stretched out. This is the back part of the polar vortex. And around the vortex, you have these areas of vorticity or spin that rotate around it. And oftentimes when you start to see one that looks like this, you can see the jet stream kind of, the flow in the atmosphere stretched out from west to east here. This is what you have to watch for. It's trying to close itself off a bit, and you can see it begins to widen some. It shows me that there is a storm system here, but it's got what's called a positive tilt to it. That means it's tilting to the right a bit. And as it happens, you don't typically see big-time storm systems, but you can still get areas of low pressure and storm systems that can develop. And with this type of a pattern, it's favorable for a storm center to develop down here into deep South Texas and then move across the Gulf here as we head into Monday night and Tuesday. And you can almost see there's your lift. It's got good southwesterly flow. You got cold air coming in from the north. Here is your cold air coming in from the polar vortex into the Gulf Coast states and eastern part of the country. And then you've got this big disturbance that's kind of rotating around on the backside, and you get this southwesterly flow aloft, and that's creating lift here across the Gulf Coast states and even into Florida here as you head into Monday night, Tuesday night, and early Wednesday. So this is favorable for a storm center down here to form. And if we kind of take a look at it again, cold air, there's your energy, there's your storm center developing. And as we get into the early and middle parts of next week, this moves right across the northern Gulf of Mexico here. And, one thing that whenever my time working in Jackson, Mississippi, and I'm from the Jackson, Mississippi area, I worked with a guy by the name of David Hartman at WABT, and we used to talk about favorable winter storms for the Gulf Coast and the Southeast would be cold polar air coming in or Arctic air coming in from the north, and then a low pressure system developing down here in the Gulf. This is an ideal track based upon the latest weather information for accumulating snow and ice. It gets started over here into central and south Texas. And again, it'd probably be mostly Monday night, early Tuesday here. And then it tracks eastward, northern, matter of fact, most of Louisiana perhaps, even all the way down to the Gulf Coast, Lake Charles, Lafayette, into New Orleans, possibly some ice. That would be freezing rain and sleet. You get north of there, you got snow. Places like Baton Rouge, Louisiana, possibly, up to Macomb, Mississippi, and to maybe even Jackson there, back towards maybe Alexandria. And then you might get snow over here in maybe Birmingham, Alabama, or to the south, or down there towards Mobile, maybe some sleet, freezing rain. And you might even see some freezing rain or sleet, maybe even into the Florida Panhandle, and maybe even into northern and maybe even north central Florida, places like Jacksonville, maybe Tallahassee, Pensacola, some of your favorite beach vacation spots. It doesn't happen very often, but it does happen. The Gulf Coast, the beaches, sometimes we'll see winter weather, and this is the kind of system that would bring it. And again, that's accumulating ice and snow. Let's look at the weather data here now. This is the American run of the GFS computer model. This is starting here at Sunday at 7 o'clock. This is the energy that's dropping to the south. There may be a little band of some light snow here with it. Up into parts of Kansas, Oklahoma, maybe even down into North Texas here. But as this is dropping south, there's your storm system developing here, and you get a combination of freezing rain, sleet, and then you get snow that develops here as you get into late Monday night and Tuesday. This would show snow stretch from San Angelo over to maybe the south side of Dallas, the Fort Worth area, all the way down into Houston. Then you might even see some wintry precipitation developing during the evening over here in Louisiana, maybe even in Mississippi. Then you get into Tuesday morning. There's your winter storm. Where you see these brighter white colors, that indicates heavier bands of snow here. Maybe some sleet, freezing rain in Houston there. Heavier snow maybe up to Tyler, Texas. Maybe College Station. And then maybe over towards Toledo Bend Reservoir here. Nacogdoches, Texas here. And maybe even into Austin, Texas. Then you get, and again, this is the American GFS. You see snow over into Alexandria, Louisiana, snowing in Jackson, down to Macomb, Mississippi, Natchez, Mississippi. And then you get down to the south here near New Orleans, and you got the ice there, the freezing rain, the sleet. And look at that band of heavy snow, Hattiesburg, Mississippi, Biloxi getting into the ice here. Then you see it towards Mobile, into Montgomery, Alabama, and even the western parts of the Florida Panhandle. Now, at least the GFS brings that winter storm into the southeast. The Carolinas on a Tuesday evening here and early Wednesday, back into Atlanta, back into Georgia. But the GFS does not bring as much ice down into Florida. That's the GFS. Here is the European computer model. There's that band of snow I was just talking about for Saturday evening. Doesn't look like much here. And then as we get into Sunday, here's that piece of energy dropping south here out of along the Rocky Mountains, and there's some little light snow with it into Oklahoma City. And then there's your snowstorm and your winter storm here with the European. The difference is the European is a little bit more suppressed with the storm system. It's not quite as far north with the heavier snow. This would bring early Tuesday morning heavy snow to San Antonio and the northern side of that up to Austin, over to Houston. That'd bring accumulating snow to Houston with ice all the way down into Corpus Christi, back into parts of northern Mexico, near Del Rio. And then you'd see the snow over into southern Louisiana. This scenario would probably bring less snow further north. So less snow into Shreveport, less snow into Jackson here. But you would see good snow amounts there across southern Louisiana, southern and southeast Mississippi, along the Florida Panhandle into the southeastern parts of the United States, south and east of Georgia here, Atlanta. And then you'd see ice all the way over here into the Florida Panhandle and even into northern Florida here. And now, like I say, Jacksonville, maybe over towards Tallahassee, maybe north of Orlando here, could be some wintry precipitation with that. So it's kind of a situation where the weather pattern, and when you're in these situations, the weather pattern favors it. You know that the trends are there, but you just kind of watch the trend and you make adjustments. And as you get closer to time, you're able to fine tune and pinpoint. Remember, this is still several days away. This is Friday. So we got Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So you're looking at 3 to 4 days. So there's going to be adjustments. I know there's a lot of maps. There's a bunch of maps out there with all these big snow accumulations all over social media. The bottom line is there's going to be accumulating snow from central, deep South Texas all the way over here into the southeastern part of the country. I do believe that. But how far north it is and how much remains to be seen. And also, at least across Texoma, where I do my majority of my forecasting, that would be North Texas, southwest Oklahoma. Just light wintry precipitation here. This pattern doesn't favor much for us, but it does favor cold. And remember, always wrap those outside faucets when we get into these cold weather situations. The firewood brought in, antifreeze in the car, you got to check that. Check your battery and tire pressure because the cold weather zaps those. And, of course, the windows always need to be sealed indoors with weather stripping and caulking. That's a good idea. And check on the elderly and always bring your pets in and because it is going to be cold outside. Remember, they're cold too. I know they got their coat of fur on, but especially when the wind blows, it does impact them as well. Of course, if you have pets, you know what to do. Always try to bring them on inside if you can, if at all possible. That's what you should do when you have cold weather like this. All right, so we'll have more updates throughout the weekend on this developing cold weather and developing deep south winter storm. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe to my social media pages. Once again, this is Ken Johnson.